Boy, you think about how lucky and fortunate Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and even other guys, Drew Brees, when he came out to somewhat, but not to be that number one overall pick, not even to go in the top 5. They were fortunate. And so it pays in one way to be the number one overall pick. You get more money, at least in your first contract, but it really doesn't pay, Mike, to be that number one overall pick. 3 times, as you mentioned, Carl Williams, I would disagree that he's pushed back more than anybody else because I think Archie Manning is still number one in that category.
Well, he had one push and it worked. He had one push and it worked.
Yeah. Well, here's my point. 3 times it's happened, obviously. 83 with Elway, the Colts. 86, Bo Jackson with the Bucks. And 2004, Eli with the Chargers. They didn't end up, obviously, with those teams. Here's my question. Do we see this again ever? And we have, guess what, a Manning coming up. I don't think he comes out next year where, I can't believe that he's that high in the betting odds, having not really played a season yet. He's played a couple games that we've even seen. So we haven't even really seen him play. We think he's going to be good, but I think he's there for 2 years. So whenever he comes out, whether it's 2026 or 2027, whatever it is, do we see Arch Manning or somebody else ever push back against the system to say, I'm not going to that team?
Well, I'll just say this, and I'm going to try to say it as delicately as possible, lest I be perceived as even more of a heel than I already am. But the fact that Arch Manning, despite not having entered any season as a starter and having multiple years of eligibility, is the betting favorite to be the first overall pick in next year's draft. It proves a couple of things. Number one, it shows why sports books have so much money, because they tend to win. Because the people who are dumb enough to bet on anything are dumb enough to bet that Arch Manning will be the number one overall pick in next year's draft. There's a lot of dumb that goes on, starting with throwing to chance your hard-earned money, because I'm sorry, I know a lot of people like to gamble. I know this is going to be, well, be careful what you say because we have a DraftKings deal on the show. Most of the people who bet are dumb. And the evidence is, you know what the evidence is that they're dumb? Because they're betting. Because that in and of itself is a stupid endeavor that you can't win over the long haul. You've deluded yourself into thinking you can win. So the Arch Manning thing is a prime example of the stupidity that is inherent to the entire act of betting, because the entire act of betting is a stupid, fruitless exercise. Okay, rant over. Now, as it relates to Archie Manning, not Arch, but Archie Manning, Gary raises the point, did Eli pick up that heel label, that villain label? Did he become the Rowdy Roddy Piper of pro football back in 2004? And he didn't, I think, for 2 reasons. Number one, I mean, Eli Manning makes the boy next door look like Charles Manson. Eli Manning is the most non-threatening, kind, especially when you look at a professional athlete, a quarterback who's supposed to kick ass and take names. Eli is as, and I mean this as a compliment, he is as nice and as basic and as non-threatening as any quarterback is ever going to be. So I think that helped. But it also helped that Archie was the one who stepped out there and took the flack for Eli. Because it wasn't Archie behaving as a father saying, I've examined these situations and I've decided it's not in my son's interest to go here. No, he wasn't being a helicopter parent. Eli was flying the helicopter. But Archie was the one taking the flack for it. Eli went and visited the Chargers, and Eli got mixed signals as to whether or not they wanted him there. He sensed the dysfunction between the coach and the GM. And to his credit, he realized this isn't going to be good for me. I don't want to be in a place where I'm not sure whether they want me. I get the impression one does and one doesn't. And there was a multi-year battle between Marty Schottenheimer and A.J. Smith at the time playing out. It's amazing the Chargers were any good during that window with the dysfunction between Marty Schottenheimer and A.J. Smith. So that's what happened. And Archie took the heat. But think about where we were. No social media. The internet, yes. No social media. I think in today's world, I think it's going to be impossible to pull it off. And the best test case is going to be Arch Manning. I thought Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter would come together and try to do it jointly. We know how that turned out. But I think the last power play, the only power play we're ever going to see, if any, is Arch Manning. And maybe if he pulls it off, it blazes a new trail for others. Because I think more should. I've been praying for someone to take up the mantle and push back against the system, because I firmly believe the system screws the players. And we are conditioned to think it's good for the players. No matter how bad the situation is, the player is dropped into, Charean.
Well, and I think Archie Manning was the perfect villain in that scenario too, because he played quarterback in the NFL and he went to a dysfunctional organization, and he's a great example of, Mike, he might have been a Hall of Fame quarterback if he had gone to a team where he could win. He was there years, and you don't continue to be the quarterback of a team, even in that era, if you weren't pretty good. And he was pretty good. And maybe he could have been great, but we'll never know, because he languished with the Saints for so long. And go back and look how bad they were. They were one of the worst teams in NFL history. And it had something to do with Archie Manning, but not a lot. And I truly think he could have been, maybe not a Hall of Fame quarterback, but I think he could have been much better than what he was if he had gone to a different organization that gave him an opportunity to win. So he was the perfect villain, because he could say, I was in that situation and it sucked losing for that long, and I don't want my son to be in that situation. Even if it was Eli behind the curtain pulling on the strings saying, you be the fall guy. And he was, and it worked out great for Eli, as we all know. And he went to the place where he wanted to go. So I'm with you. I think if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Arch, and it's a really hard thing to do. And I don't know if it'll ever be done again. The quarterbacks are just going to end up where they end up. And you have to hope that you don't go to one of these dysfunctional teams and that you have an opportunity to succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, look, I agree with that completely. And Arch Manning went through the NFL at a time when there was no opportunity to become a free agent. The teams held your rights indefinitely. When your contract expired, all that meant was you either sign a new contract or you don't play, because you couldn't go to another team. Yeah. Unless the team got fed up and traded your rights, like the Bengals did with Carson Palmer, but his contract wasn't expired. But that's my point. The team had all the control. The team had all the power. And even nowadays, the players have power. And we were inching toward an era of true player empowerment in the NFL. We still have a long way to go, folks. The deck is still stacked. The system is still rigged in favor of the teams and ultimately the owners. And it's perfect because the fans align with the owners. They will always have, and they always will, because the owners are far more closely identified with the team than the players will ever be, because the players are going to come and go. The owners are there forever. And, you know, it's funny when, well, it's also sad when I point out that, you know, a team might not have a very good owner like the Jets and Woody Johnson. Some of the fans get mad and defend him because they have no choice. They're stuck. It's permanent. It's like a family member that you didn't choose, and somebody's making fun of that family member or criticizing that family member. If you're going to continue to identify yourself as a fan of that owner's team, your only choice is to find a way to defend the owner, because there's no way you're getting rid of the owner unless there's a chain of events sparking a league investigation conducted by Mary Jo White. And there's nothing funny about that, but that's the only way out. Death, selling the team, or being forced out as a result of misconduct that gets detected by Mary Jo White, reported back to the league, and the owners push you out the door. That's it. The fans of the bad teams with the bad owners are stuck, and there isn't a damn thing they're going to do about it, and no one is going to rise up Because at the end of the day, you know what we want? As evidenced by Wednesday's biggest news in all of sports, even with playoffs raging in 2 major league sports and the baseball season up and running, the biggest news was when they're playing the games. When are our games? What games are we going to get? What are we going to watch on Christmas? What are we going to watch on Thanksgiving? When are we going to watch the first Monday night of the season? That's all we care about. That's how ingrained the football experience is. So shame on anyone who dares to push back, who would have the audacity to pay attention to the man behind the curtain, who would even consider pointing out that the emperor is riding butt naked on a horse down the street.
Yeah, and here we are, Mike, with another quarterback going through a second change, and hope for the best for Caleb Williams, but it does start at the top. It starts with that owner. If you don't have good ownership, it's hard to have a good organization. That's just facts. And you're right. There's only 3 ways that it changes. And unfortunately for those teams, the fans of those teams who have those owners, you know, you can only hope you're the Commanders and finally get an ownership change and things change for your organization as we saw. But it starts at the top, and it's hard to get rid of that stench.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.